I'm going to walk us through making a wireframe for the homepage and maybe a recipe page for the recipe book site to give us a sense of how you're going to go ahead and make your wireframes and considerations that you'll need to make. So I've gone ahead and opened up Adobe XD, and the first thing I'm going to do is grab a basic web page. So go click Web 1920, and it'll make a pasteboard with the artboard that's 1920 by 1080. I'm going to go ahead and call this home. I'm going to try to keep on top of labeling things appropriately as I go, because it's going to make life easier, especially since we're using a lot of kind of dummy text and a lot of placeholders right now. So on my home page, the first thing I know I'm going to need to make is a space for my navigation across the top. So I'm going to go ahead, drag out a rectangle. There'll be a lot of rectangles that I'm making. I'm going to take off the border and I'm going to make it gray. Go ahead and add that fill. And again, I'm going to call this nav because, again, if I can stay on top of naming things appropriately, it's going to make my life easier. Now, I'm not sure exactly how much space this should take up, but I do know I have a logo. So I'm going to go ahead and drag my bear icon logo onto my artboard. Come on, there we go. Come on, bear. So let me pop that in. Now, this is going to give me a sense of this is the size that maybe I'm going to want my nav to be, because this is how big my logo is. So I've gone ahead and just dropped that in. And now, okay, I know I'm going to need some text. And I'm going to go ahead and keep the text really basic because, again, remember, we're going to be focusing on size, placement, and hierarchy. We're not going to be worrying about font choices. So I remember that I had after my home page, which I'm going to have, I'll go ahead and make one link that says home. And then I'm going to also want, I want that to be a bit bigger as well. So let me go ahead, drag that out. I want that to be, let's go ahead and make this black for right now. Just, again, I'm not using colors other than black and white, but just to get a sense of consistency and like how dark or light something is. So you can use things like value in our, or how light or dark something is, to help us get a sense. So we have home, then, and I just copied and pasted there. We had recipes. Paste again. We had, let's see, 80, sure. Tips. We had an about, 80. Paste and contributors, which is a long word, so I might have to make that a little bit smaller. Now, one of the ways that I can do this, I've got those guys in there. I'm going to want to go ahead and group these, because these are going to be my nav text. And I'm going to go ahead and make that a scroll stack. And right now it's got 80 space between it. Let's first off go ahead and make this 75. It doesn't have to be quite so big. And then the other thing is I'm going to grab this group and I want to make it about 80 pixels. So this is on the X, it's 51 in plus 250, so it's about 300. So yeah, that's probably about right. So let's go ahead and make this space a little bit smaller. Let's make this 70. Okay, that text is still. Let's go ahead, make this 65. 60. And make this text 70. As we want it to take up, given that the bear is this big, we don't want it to look like it's super tiny and hanging out there, but we also don't want it to be too big. All right, and now maybe kind of center this group. It's kind of nice. It's telling me, okay, it's a little bit closer. And 12. Doesn't really, I get way too obsessive. Okay, so now it's about 113 pixels from the bare, 113 pixels from the side. There's 60 pixels in between each of these, and they each are relatively large, and we're seeing how it fits together. Okay, awesome. So what else do we need on our page other than our nav group? Nav text. Well, we're going to need our recipes. We have our feature recipes. And it's nice how it shows the lineup. Feature recipe. And you can see how it takes the last size that I used and uses that. Now, I'm just going to take a look at this text. This is regular. Maybe what if this was bold? And actually, what if these guys were all light? Yeah, that's a little bit better. Because it's all about balance. Okay, feature recipes. Now, we're going to need space for an image. We're going to want some kind of image to show off our recipe. Now, in this case, maybe I'm just going to have that as my 3-pixel border. That's telling me that is an image. All right, and now I want 3 of these on this page. Yeah, that's centered on. Cool. Now, that's centered. Okay, so those are my feature recipes. And I probably want a recipe title. Recipe title. Now that I want definitely to be smaller. Maybe I'll have regular, but I want this to be 40. All right. And you know what? For right now, I'm going to leave those there, but I'm going to make this into a card, and then I'm going to duplicate it. So this guy, I don't want a thing, but I do want a fill. I'm going to go ahead and make it that gray. And let's just assume we had like 3 layers of text underneath. And now I'm starting to get near the end of my page. I'm going to go ahead and just drag this down however long. I don't know how long it needs to be yet, but I'm just going to drag it down. And we'll make it shorter later. And I want 3 things of text. And then maybe a more. Now more should be a link. So I'm going to go ahead and have that be underlined so that we know that that's a link. And it should be smaller as well, right? Because this is not going to be as important. It's just going to be a click for more stuff. So I want to line that up with the edge here. Same spacing, great. Now I'm going to pull all of these and I'm going to group them. That's going to be a recipe card. Now, this guy, I'm actually going to give it a little bit of a fill just because it's kind of the whiteness is bothering me. Very, very light. That's just my own eyes. You can call it my eyes are getting old. All right, so I'm gonna copy and paste a second recipe card that I want to center on the page, and I want to paste a third one, and there we go. Okay, so those are my featured recipes. Oh, now I've gone to save it, and it's done the save on cloud. I want to make sure I save it locally, so make sure you go File, Save as Local Document, and this is a wireframe demo. And make sure you save that wherever you're saving your other pieces. Now, as I've just zoomed out here, I can start getting a sense of hierarchy. And really, these links are feeling a little chunky. But I do want them to take up space. So I'm going to have to go back and play with this a little bit because I feel like the hierarchy isn't the way that I want it right now. But that's okay. That's what this is for, right? Now, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste. You know what? No. Yes. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste because I want to do my tips and I want to feature tips as well. So feature tips. Now, this I want to be slightly different. So I'm going to go ahead and change this tip title. Now the tips I don't think are as important as the recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and have it just be, I'm going to get rid of that. I only want this to be one, zoom in, one line of filler text underneath, and I'm going to move my more up a little bit closer. I do want it to say about the same size for an image just because it's going to make life easier for kind of laying things out. So tips are going to have that. So I'm going to change this to tip card. I'm going to show you an easier way to do all this soon when we get to components. But then I want this guy to line up and paste my third one, and I want this to line up. Now the other thing that we had on our page was a little bit about the creator. So let me go ahead and do this about the creator. And now in this case, I also had a image. I'm gonna go ahead and make an image that's the right width. But you know what? I want that to be a taller image. Maybe not quite that tall. Maybe I want this image. I'm going to get rid of the border and I'm going to again give myself this kind of light gray fill. I want this image, actually keep the border, keep it consistent. I want the image to be the height of my recipe cards. Great. All right. So that's the same. When did I have that? I think I had a 3. Okay, so that'll be an image of me. And then I want some text. So I'm going to put in a placeholder for some other text that I want to take up this much room. So now I'm going to go ahead and make that the color that I'm using to hold text so that I know, okay, if it's this color, it's an image. If it's this color, it's text. And then I do want a footer. I'm just going to make this down here and then I'll move it. I want that to be thin. I'm going to go ahead, take off the border. I want that fill to be the same as up here. Great. And I'm just going to stick some text that's going to be like copyright 20, let's say 22. Cat Longbarn Cook, all rights reserved. I don't know. Apparently I'm really into copyright right now. That's really not true. I'm going to make it ultra light. No, how about just light, but I'm going to make it like 18 points. Oh, maybe not quite that small, 20. And pull this down. There we go. Centered. Select those two, group them. This is a footer. I'm going to give that a little bit more breathing room. All right, now I'm going to make my guy this size. All right, so the other thing is I want to get a sense of what this is like in reality. So I'm going to zoom into 100%. So this gives me a sense of what it would look like actually on a screen. And that text is really big. This feature recipe, that feels okay for what it is. but this is feeling super large. So let me go ahead and make that 50. That's feeling a lot better. So sometimes you have a look at how it looks as a whole, and you're like, okay, but it's always a good idea to see what something looks like at 100%, because, you know, let's be honest, how often are we working with stuff at 75%, or you can't get an actual sense of the scale, especially of text, if you're working really large. This I think feels all right to me. Without the creator, there'd be a bunch of text in there, and that feels okay. I probably want a period in there though, right? That would be right. There we go. Period. There we go. Okay. That is, I have no idea what I just did and why it can't be determined. So let's just do a save as. Oops, save as local document. Not entirely sure why that being there. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and replace that. Sometimes computers get grumpy. Now I'm gonna zoom back out all the way, and now I wanna fix my spacing a bit. So let's go back out to, you know what, let's go ahead and give it 100, 120. Yeah, that's starting to feel a bit better. Okay, I'm not going to get too obsessive. So now we've starting to feel like, okay, I have a sense of how this is all going to work together. And I'm starting to feel okay. I'm going to go ahead and break this video, because I'm going to show you in the next video how we can create components, and that's going to make it easier to make our recipe page.